Hello my dear friends and family, I'm Operator Starsky with the most recent updates on Russia's ongoing invasion of Ukraine. Let's talk about the recent developments on the front lines, unprecedented strikes on Russia's oil industry and Ukraine's civilian sector, and the peace talks which, considering Putin's reluctance, I'm not even sure if they're worth mentioning, but why not? This is the Frontline Focus. Let's roll. Russian invaders continue to concentrate on maintaining and strengthening positions in northern and eastern Ukraine. Their operations at this point primarily focus on consolidating control around border regions and key towns, fortifying defensive positions in areas under their occupation, and conducting localized attacks to disrupt Ukrainian movements and also test their defenses. Reports indicate that Russian attacks have been concentrated near populated settlements like Sumy, Kharkiv and Kupiansk, though major territorial gains remain completely limited. We're talking about a few kilometers a day, sacrificing up to 8,000 Russians on a daily basis. However, their artillery and missile strikes continue to target both military and civilian infrastructure across different regions of Ukraine. For example, on the night of September 7th, Russian terrorists attacked Ukraine with unprecedented 810 missiles and drones combined. Ukrainian Air Force reported intercepting 751 aerial targets. Tonight, another airstrike took place involving only 142 drones. However, this time Russian terrorists apparently used some new version of long-range drone that was flying at extremely low altitudes, which of course posed a huge danger for Ukrainian apartment buildings and their residents. The most notable strikes on civilian apartment buildings were reported in Kyiv. Unfortunately, we have numerous casualties among civilian population. Additionally, a drone hit the upper floors of Ukraine's cabinet of ministers. However, this time nobody got injured because the government structures stand primarily empty, being obvious targets for the Russian strikes. In the Sumy Oblast, Russian troops have advanced near Veliko-Mikhailivka, although detailed reports on these movements are limited. However, as of September 3rd, Russian forces continued offensive operations in northern Sumy Oblast, but again did not make confirmed advances. The fighting remains intense, particularly in the areas under Russian occupation. Russian casualties remain substantial with high number of personnel lost. We're talking approximately 1,089,000 terrorists dead or wounded. According to Ukraine's official sources as well as the estimates made by the ISW and other agencies, the losses of Ukrainian troops are twice as low compared to Russians. However, the biggest difference is that the number of dead Ukrainian defenders versus wounded is much lower, basically because Russian combat medicine mostly consists of mercifully finishing Russian wounded by Russian personnel. There's basically a whole internet of drone footage, however, it's a bit too gruesome to show here. In addition to that, Russian terrorists suffer extreme deficit of evacuation vehicles since early 2024, so basically they don't want to bother. Unfortunately, death toll among Ukrainian civilians also continues to grow. As of September 2025, the United Nations has verified that at least 14,000 Ukrainian civilians have been killed since the Russian invasion began in February 2022. This includes 730 Ukrainian children. Notably, April 2025 was the deadliest month for Ukrainian civilians since September 2024, with at least 209 killed and 1,100 injured, making a 23% increase from March 2025. This escalation started around the time the White House began sending the US envoys to negotiate with Russians and basically reported enormous progress in peace talks with the terrorists. Meanwhile, Ukraine has intensified its efforts to destroy Russia's oil production. In late August, Ukrainian drones targeted major refineries in Russia's Samara and Krasnodarsk Krai. These strikes have significantly impacted Russia's refining capacity, with estimates suggesting a loss of up to 1/5 of total capacity. In response, Russia has extended its ban on refined petroleum product exports to stabilize domestic fuel markets. Also, Russia attempted to repair the damaged facilities. However, many of them cannot be repaired easily due to sanctions and lack of Western parts and components. Some of the most notable strikes took place in Volgograd, where a Ukrainian drone attack caused a significant fire at Lukoil refinery, one of Russia's major crude processing facilities. The fire was even detected by NASA's satellite system. This strike disrupted operations at a facility with a capacity of 14 million tons per year. Then only last week, Ukrainian drones targeted Rosneft refineries located in Ryazan and Saratov. The Ryazan refinery, located southeast of Moscow, was hit really hard, leading to a temporary suspension of operations. Similarly, the Saratov refinery, with a capacity of 140,000 barrels per day, also was hit and had to halt its processing activities. And then yesterday, on September 7th, Ukrainian forces launched coordinated strikes on the Ilsky oil refinery in Krasnodarsk Krai. Additionally, the 8N pipeline pumping station near Bryansk Oblast was destroyed. These facilities are absolutely crucial for Russia's oil transportation and processing, and attacks led to significant disruption in Russian fuel supply. I think we can totally expect that these strikes will only intensify with time, since Ukraine is growing and expanding its drone and missile production capacity, already utilizing new long-range strike drones and missiles like Flamingo, for example, that was recently showcased by Associated Press. As a result, by late August, Ukrainian drone strikes had knocked out approximately 17% of Russia's total refining capacity, equating to about 1.1 million barrels per day. The strikes coincided with peak seasonal demand in Russia, leading to gasoline shortages in regions such as occupied Crimea, southern Russia, and the far east of the Terrorist Federation. The disruption in refining operations has added pressure to Russia's economy, which was already facing challenges due to lower global oil prices and existing sanctions placed by the civilized West. I would say that these strategic strikes that we could observe over the past week confirmed Ukraine's capability to target critical infrastructure located deep within Russian territory. Now, how exactly will those hundreds of Russian strike drones targeting Ukrainian civilians help Russian terrorists still remains a mystery to me. However, this is a good opportunity to talk once again about the peace talks with Russians and why they don't work. As you probably remember, 2 weeks after meeting Putin in Alaska and Zelensky in Washington, D.C., it was expected to finally bring Putin to the negotiation table. According to the White House, it was supposed to happen sometime last week. However, Putin keeps insisting that Zelensky should come to Moscow, which is of course a complete nonsense. It's absolutely obvious that the internationally wanted war criminal Putin tries to find more and more excuses not to establish a ceasefire and not to meet with Ukrainian leader, and basically continues to strike Ukrainian civilians, which still doesn't bring him expected results. While the Alaska summit was a great diplomatic gesture, it appears to have been more about optics than substance. The international community remains watchful, hoping for a shift towards genuine diplomacy. However, Ukrainians already warned them 1,000 times that Putin only recognizes peace through strength. And to make it happen, Ukraine still needs your support in terms of defense, because after all, Russian population is not endless. With that, my dear friends and family, I wish you all a beautiful day. Don't forget to subscribe to stay informed about the most important updates and share this content to help Ukraine be heard. I'll see you in the comments. I'm Operator Starsky. As always, be safe.
Subscribe to UATV English and stay updated on the most important events, top news from Ukraine and all over the world, in-depth analysis, exclusive reports and interviews, all on hand in our channel. Join our community of viewers and stay tuned.